as people are running it. So we've got a three-phase program for today, as I understand it. So we've got Mish starting with the Tots, then Sarah from PJ Libraries going up with the tweens, the younger ones, and then we've got RSY Netza going up to the tweens and teens age group. So we've got a full variety for you this evening of every age group. So I'm handing over to Mish, and thank you very much for being with us.
Fantastic. So while you're on mute, we're going to have 10 seconds of Tots Shabbat, and then we'll talk about it. Here it goes. Are we ready? Yes, we're ready for Shabbat, for Shabbat. Did we come to shul online? Yes, we came to shul online. Did we sing Shabbat Shalom? We didn't. Oh no, we didn't sing Shabbat Shalom. I can't believe we came to synagogue and we didn't sing Shabbat Shalom. Thank goodness you were here. Let's sing. So I just wanted to give you a feel for what Tots Shabbat means to me. And I'm going to share my screen because I would hate for you to come to a presentation and not have death by PowerPoint. So here it goes. Appropriately, I can hear my 4-year-old bashing down the door, but I've locked it, so that's all right. So hopefully you can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Yeah, we're okay. So we're talking about Tots services online, and I'm really aware that there are potentially two groups of people here, leaving aside the ones who don't deal with Tots at all. There's going to be people who are already running a very successful and happy Tots service and just want to know some ideas for taking it on Zoom or online. And then there's going to be people who perhaps aren't running Tots services at the moment, but this is a real opportunity to explore something on Zoom where you might not have taken the step if it had been physically in a building. I'm Mish Sampson. I'm running Tots services at East London and Essex Liberal, but my day job is as Director of Music at Finchley Reformed Synagogue. So it's very hard for me to ever extricate myself from the music side of whatever's going on. I love this picture because no one attending Tots service ever looks like this. They look at this idyllic situation and nobody is hanging off the end of a sofa or hiding under a table or crying. It's excellent work. When you're planning a Tots service, and you'll forgive me now if I talk to the people who are newer to this, who are you aiming it at? You're aiming it not just at preschoolers. And when I say Tots, I'm talking about any child below school level. So that could be babe in arms, toddler, and someone who is about to go to school. But it's not just aimed at them. Crucially, it's aimed at them and their parents or their carers. This is the way that you get this group of young adults potentially back to shul from a break. This is the time where they are most vulnerable and looking for this kind of input. So it is always for them and families. You never want them doing something else. They want to be in the service with you. And having used the word service, I would really challenge the need for it to be a Tots service. I think we get bogged down with, oh, if it's a service, it has to have all these essential elements. And I think sometimes if you allow yourself to call it an experience, a Shabbat experience, a High Holy Day experience, then you suddenly open out a whole bunch of options for yourself in terms of what you could do and also what you can leave out and what you can experiment with. Whenever you're doing a Tots experience, you need to be clear what are the aims. As an example, my aims for Tots Shabbat are usually that the Tots register something about Shabbat, that they carry with them some rituals that are emotionally interesting to them that they do on a Shabbat, that the parents or carers learn about how to do some of those prayers with the kids, that everyone has an enjoyable Jewish experience together. There are big time constraints with little ones, but even more so on Zoom. 25 minutes to 30 minutes, they're done. They're very much done with you. Unless you're going to add some kind of independent activity, like if there's a craft that they can do afterwards where they happen to be on screen but they're not doing it with you, then you could extend it. But I've generally found that 25 minutes, they don't need to see you anymore. Some key aspects. lots of music, lots and lots of music, and it doesn't have to be professional level music. As it happens, I play the guitar, but it would be absolutely fine not to play the guitar. I think the important thing about the music you use is that it needs to be incredibly accessible. And when I say accessible, I mean not many words. I'm really against using text on screen for Tots services. I think they need to see you, and they need to potentially see everyone else having fun and doing things. If you were putting text on, all you're doing really is putting it there for the parents, but it blocks the Tots view of what's going on. I wouldn't. I would keep short text. Also, I guess while we're talking music, can I reassure anyone who needs to hear it that the quality of your singing is not important to Tots? In the same way that it is not important to your own child when you sing lullabies, it's not important to Tots. What is important, perhaps, is the courage of your convictions, that Bim Bom is as much a crucial Shabbat song as something with a whole bunch of other liturgy on it, and that you sing it with that in mind, that you never sing Tots music like you're kind of embarrassed, or like it's kind of silly, or that you know it's a bit silly. It needs as much of your conviction, probably more, than if you're singing something really wordy. Keep it moving, just like I'm not right now. Activities, music, no breaks for thinking. If you're going to have a quiet moment, that's fine. You've set up a quiet moment. But no pauses while you think about stuff in between music or activities or prayers. The ball drops, you've lost them. A clear, repeatable structure is really important, just as important on Zoom as in real life. It's what they're going to associate with Shabbat or High Holy Days or whatever it is. And the larger than life you can be, the better. The more playful, the better. That's me attempting to be playful. I'm ever so sorry, but that's me with the guitar going, ah. Allow for a variety of modes in your service. That there is going to be dancing and singing, absolutely, but that there might also be playing instruments, that there might also be a listening moment or a quiet moment or a doing moment. The more they do physically, the more relevant to Tots. Plans change, of course they do, so you need to be flexible. If something's not working, bin it. This is not the time to push through with something that you thought was liturgically very interesting and a very portentous moment. If they're not with you, you may as well stop. You know, go, that was a lovely idea. You just put it aside and you move on. You have to. You've got 25 minutes. It's super important, we'll come back to this, that you connect with the children and with the grown-ups, and also that you facilitate them connecting with each other. It's about creating an experience that they do with each other. Here's some examples of participation that works just as well on Zoom as in real life. Games and actions. Shimon Omer, Simon says, anything where they can show you there are 10 commandments. Shema with sign language. Actions are especially good on Zoom because they're probably going to be muted for most of your service, one way or another. Which on the one hand means that whatever chaos is going on in someone's home actually disturbs what you're trying to do far less than if they were in the room. Someone's having a bit of a moment. But the flip side is they can't speak to you. They can't interrupt you with a jolly good idea. So the more you give them permission to show you things. Like, shall we do this? Shall we go faster or slower? Shall we have good dinosaur or bad dinosaur? What action should we do next? Clapping. We'll do clapping. The more they can show you, the better. Suggestions. What's called zipper songs are where you take suggestions and you put it in the song. Shira Klein has a song, Baruch Atah Adonai, thank you God, thank you for, and thank you for. And in person, you would just sort of point to a child or to a family and let them contribute. It's a bit harder on Zoom. Last time I got everyone to unmute, they gave me all their suggestions. I wrote them down quickly for myself. I muted them again and then I sang their song back to them. So that's one way of doing it on Zoom. Instruments are great. People tend to have instruments at home if they have little kids. If you really think they wouldn't, then why not, as part of your like high holy day kids care package, you could send a shaker and a plastic shofar and a little bit of honey or whatever it is you might think that they possibly don't have. If it's cheap, you can send it out to them. My advice with instruments is to choose your moments, because if they use it the whole time, it's not special. But if you have these are our songs of praise, and we praise God with our voices and with our instruments. Who's got their instrument? Show me your instrument. 1, 2, 3, ready, and stop. Did you stop? Don't do. So you make a moment with the instruments. They're not just along for the ride. Sensory stuff, particularly on Zoom. What an opportunity for them to experience physical things with their family, which is, after all, what you're trying to facilitate. You're trying to facilitate how do they do their own Judaism at home. So real life items, warning people that there's going to be kiddush and they get their own stuff together. A talit that the parent can wrap around themselves and the child. It's honey and apple time. Physical things that they do together. The parents become your hands, but also it's more important that they do these things with the child anyway. Humor. Naughty dinosaur. This is the dinosaur Shabbat song that is not going anywhere. I'm so sorry. Why not revel in it? They like puppets. Zoom gives us an opportunity. It gives us the element of surprise that we don't otherwise have, because they can't see what's off screen. So you can make a meal of it. Has anybody seen my dinosaur? I have not seen him anywhere. What? No, I did not. There was no dinosaur here. It feels silly to us right now because we're all adults having this conversation. I promise you, dinosaurs appearing on the screen are actually hilarious. You just have to be there. Kids love it if you're wrong. That's why they, what? I didn't say Shabbat Shalom. Oh man. Oh, thank goodness you're here. I do that shtick for almost every bit of the service because they love to know before you what you're meant to be doing. We talked lots about interaction between grown-up and child. 10 little cholas. I'm just giving you some of these resources in case you haven't come across them. 10 little chalot is 10 little cholas in a baker's shop. And one at a time, the parents go and pick their challah and take it away. And you can do that on Zoom. The kids can lie down in their space. You have to name the parent, otherwise they don't know who you're referring to. Along came Josh's parent with £1 to pay, picked a lovely challah and took him right away. And I usually get them to give him a tickle because tickling is always good for tots. Pre-prepared sharing. I've put this last on the list because I think it's better for older tots. That if you encourage them to prepare something ahead of time, then they can bring it and they can show it on screen. Specific Zoom tips. This is like the least exciting bit of the presentation, so I left it so we could really anticipate it here at the end. Rename the participants with the name of the child. Get them to do it. You may know everybody, you may not, but either way, it gives you the power of, yes, Joshi. Oh, I can see that Sarah's got a cuddly toy. I can see that Sarah's got a talit. Shout outs. We didn't mention shout outs, but the more you can reference what they're doing, the better, really. Because you're having to create this feeling of we are really in the same space. I do see you. You see me and I see you. So making sure you know who they are. Knowing when you're going to mute and unmute. I've just said quite a lot of the time tots are on mute. If I was braver, maybe less of the time they would be on mute. But either way, you could identify times in the service where it's okay. We're all gonna make noise in this moment, or we're all gonna take suggestions, or we're all gonna have a little chat while parents find the Kiddush cup. I can't stress enough to have a helper who manages the waiting room. If something goes hugely wrong, they're there letting people in late. And also, you know, sometimes people will leave when their kid has a tantrum. Usually they won't. Usually they'll stop the video. But, you know, you need to be able to let people back. Emergency muting. We tried a bit of, my daughter Penny is 6, and sadly she helped me with a service the other day. And sadly she can unmute herself. So she gave a commentary for quite a lot of the service. And next time I might not do that. Next time I might put her in a different room where she can commentate to Daddy instead. No text on screen we spoke about. Spotlight leader. Right now I'm spotlighted and all you can see is me. Sad to say. If you are leading, you probably actually prefer breakout. I've just seen the chat, that's why I said breakout rooms. Gallery view, so that you can see all the kids. I just flagged up reading a story because it can be hit and miss. When you're trying to show a picture book on screen, it doesn't always work very well. It doesn't have that physicality that you would have, and the sort of presence that you would have if you were sharing a book and they were there. One of the things I have seen quite successful is to tell a story on screen without a book, possibly with props, possibly with puppets. And finally, this is a tip from the wonderful Shira Klein. She does a lot of, come closer, come close, come close, come close. What have you got? Oh, yeah. It's incredible. It has an effect, and it's not something we really think about, because once we're comfy in a place, we're comfy. Why would we move anywhere? But there's something about the come here. So I commend that to you. That is the end of my sort of formal list of tips. And I'm gonna open it out for well, actually it's up to you, Sarita. I can take a couple of questions now, or we could wait till the end. What would you like to do?
Literally just thought I had to unmute myself to answer that question. I'm wondering if we do all questions at the end, because I'm just conscious that we're aiming to finish by about, what do we say, 9:15 to 9:30. So I think maybe if we do all the questions at the end, would that be okay for everyone, so that we can hear everything?
Sure.
Also, some questions might get answered incidentally or accidentally by the next thing. So great. Thank you, Mish. That was brilliant. I learned a lot, and I'm coming up close to tell you how much I learned. You can't see me because you're on Spotlight. Okay, so I'm gonna now hand you over to Sarah from PJ Library. There she is. It's like magic. She appears in front of you. Welcome.
Hi, and good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. My name's Sarah. I'm from PJ Library in the UK. For those of you who don't know, PJ Library gift over actually now 8,000 books to families raising Jewish children in the UK. And we invite any family raising Jewish children to subscribe to receive the gift of free monthly books. They are bright, modern, colourful books like this. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how we can use the books and all the programming that's available for communities like yours. I'm going to share my screen as well. There we are. Okay, so PJ Library UK, we have 4 books that go out every month for children, and the books for Rosh Hashanah will go out at the beginning of September. So take a note of my email address and contact me afterwards, and everything that I talk about I can send you online. So the books are age appropriate for 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and 7 and 8-year-olds. So the children receive baby books and they go all the way up to stories. And like Mish said, sometimes it can be rather tricky to tell a story whilst it's in front of you and you can't quite see the words totally and show the pictures and your face and bring it to life. So if you're doing a live Zoom event for kids, we have got all the books as a directory available for online sharing. So you can share those with your community and you can bring the stories to life yourself and share your screen as you do all the voices for the characters. In addition to the books, we have got children's service materials for kids aged between 3 to 8. And all of the books available are accompanied by a program. It's a recipe, a craft, and an activity idea. So for example, one of the books for Sukkot is a Hillel Builds a House. There's one for Rosh Hashanah about Tashlich. So they cover the whole of the High Holy Days. So have a look at pjlibrary.org.uk, and you can sort the books by age and by theme and by festival, and take a look at the books that are there and let me know which of those books will be helpful for your community to use. So the books are free to families, and if you are happy to share the sign-up information with the families in your community, all the books will be delivered to kids in your community. So for the people who sign up now, they'll start getting books in September, October. But if COVID goes on like this for a while, and we're going to have another one of these training sessions in the run-up to Hanukkah, children who sign up now will all get those books in time for Hanukkah, at Hanukkah. And if you're going to do a storytelling saying who got this book, they can all go and get their book, and you can do something as a program with them together. So the books are free. There is no catch to anybody. You can let me know if you would like books for you to gift as a gift from you and your community to families. So we're based in North London, and if we can get the books to you, or if there's a way of someone to collect, or this post, we can work it out. But let me know how many kids are in your community, and as a gift from PJ Library and your community, you can share the books with the kids. Mish mentioned about kids care packages. So if you are doing something like that, perhaps you'd like to include a book, and as they're all age appropriate, so we could find baby books for the tots and older books for the 8 and 9-year-olds. So creativity and motivation are a key to keep connected. And it was really fabulous to hear Mish bring Tots Children's Services to life. But not everyone is like that, and not everyone has got the confidence. So PJ Library have got a directory of performers that can help you bring this to life if it's not your key set of skills. Perhaps you're a fab organizer, you can bring all the kids to Zoom, you're great with the parents and can get everyone there, but when it comes to delivering, it's just not quite you. So PJ Library have got a directory of storytellers, performers, that I will talk about later. So this is it. So bringing the events to life. There are storytellers, performers, PJ Library illustrators, and authors that are based all around the globe. And the beauty of Zoom is that the PJ Library authors that are based in Israel, wherever they might be across the world, they can come to you. They can come to your community and speak to your kids. They can come and tell you about what they think about the books, or there could be a Q&A. And I've just given you some examples of how we've managed to bring PJ Library programming to life over the last few weeks. So for Shavuot, there was a book called The Art Lesson, which was an intergenerational story where there was an activity where the grandmother taught the granddaughter how to do paper cutouts and decorated the shul for Yom Tov. But as we're not decorating the shul, why not decorate our homes? And she had 35 children there getting ready for Shavuot and putting together a program on a PJ Library book with a story, with very easy at-home items. There's no need to go to Hobbycraft. These are all things that you'll have in your home. The second thing is so the performers, and they can tell the story on screen and share the pages. So kids can get up close and they can see all of the different pages in the book. You can do the accompanying voices. And there's a picture of a girl who was part of it. And afterwards, you get the feedback and photos from people in the community about how what it has meant to them. They haven't maybe had that Jewish connection in the past few weeks, but bringing it into their home at their level with something that's familiar can be really meaningful to families. So we are here to make all of you look good. Look good in front of your lay leaders, your community leaders, and your families. We have got the books, resources, programs, and the contacts to be able to help you bring Rosh Hashanah to life, where perhaps families that can only plan to maybe venture out for a walk or meet a family in a park or plan a family meal, this is a way for the community to get together online. So PJ Library, we're here to help you spread the word. This is an example of a flyer that we did last year that we can adapt for this year. And it was for a community in Brighton who wanted to do Tashlich on the Pier. So we had a New Year on the Pier book and help the community get together with interactive storytelling. There was an apple and honey tasting, which you can bring to life in your own home and do a honey bar and try lots of different honeys and make a lovely mess in the kitchen. So we can personalize these kinds of posters with your community logo and any information that you would like, whether or not it's a closed Zoom, or we can just put contact X for details. And we've got lots of nice Rosh Hashanah imagery of apple and honey and shofars, etc. So one thing we know anecdotally from parents is that if your families in your community already receive the books, but they perhaps are a bit tentative about stepping into shul, the books are a really good and easy gateway to make the transition when the kids can see a book, they're like, well, I've got that one at home. I love that book. And there's a connection with some of the stories that they might already be familiar with. So we can help you with the comms. We can also contact families that are local to your area. So with GDPR and confidentiality, we can't tell you who they are, but if you give us your postcode, we can contact surrounding postcodes and let them know that there is a Rosh Hashanah event happening near you. And we can get those families engaged. So perhaps there are kids that don't go to Jewish schools or weren't quite sure what to do, because usually they have a big Rosh Hashanah meal and they go to someone. But this year they're not going to be going to someone. Let's bring Rosh Hashanah to them, and we can help you do that if that's something that your community is interested. Another thing that we have got for communities is a 4-page article with bright, colourful images of the books that we will be sending out in September about games and how to engage children with games and the books over Rosh Hashanah, and what's the meaning behind all of this, why we're doing it. So please, please get in touch if you think that your community magazine or perhaps a long newsletter that goes out before Rosh Hashanah would like that content, and I'd be delighted to share it with you. In addition to the programs that I've spoken about, PJ Library, with help of our parent company in America, have put together some online resources and have an accompanying online pack, a new information guide that will be featuring deep dives such as family-friendly reflections of the High Holy Days and guidance about how to talk to children about God and why we're doing what we're doing over Rosh Hashanah. So as I said, the books are for all families raising Jewish children. So these are for interfaith families, for anyone who identifies as being Jewish and they would like to bring the holidays to life, whether it is through some recipes, that people love food and connecting through foods, and it's a very intergenerational and nostalgic thing to be able to bring things together through recipes. Perhaps it's an activity, so for the High Holy Days and also for Sukkot, there'll be things like to make a rainmaker at home when we do the prayer for rain. So have some really easy and quick items, for example, the inside of a kitchen roll holder and closing the ends and filling it with rice, and to make rainmakers. And if you let parents know in advance that you'll need a kitchen roll and some rubber bands and maybe some tin foil and some rice, they're easy things that kids can do together. And at the end, for everyone to be making a racket or to have that screenshot of everyone doing the same thing, and even to cover their faces if, you know, parents don't want their kids to be seen online, and to get a photo of all the kids doing something together. I think that's what everybody wants out of a children's service, for there to be this noise that comes out of a children's room in a classroom to celebrate. But we're now just kind of changing a little bit and pivoting to our homes. So as well as books that are coming out for the new year, there will be 4 new titles every month. If you are a subscriber to PJ Library, have a look at the old titles that you might have. There's some real good ones that are out there. We pride ourselves in coming up with new and original content, but there's nothing wrong with the ones that have already been out there. Apple Tree Discovery is a gorgeous book about apples who are so plain and they think nothing of themselves, and what's special about an apple? And if you cut an apple in half, you get a star. Inside every apple there's a star. And you can talk that to the children about themselves. Inside every person there's a star. You might not feel like it's special that you can't wear your Yom Tov dress to shul, but inside everyone there is something to celebrate. So across PJ Library in the UK, we have got 400 books, a couple of hundred, I'm sure, for all the High Holy Days. So if there's something out there that you want to pick up on, it might be something for the older kids about words and meanings. And there's a book called A Sack Full of Feathers about making sure that being careful about what you say to your friends. And it's a story about the rabbi who goes around with a sack full of feathers and then lets the feathers go and trying to take back all those words that were across the village. But you can do simple things with toothpaste, and you can ask kids, squeeze out a tube of toothpaste and say, right, imagine they're your words. Try and get them back in and see how you get on. And try and get all that toothpaste back into the tube. And we've got hundreds of ideas of things that, whilst they'd work perfectly well in a synagogue environment, they'd work just as well at home and maybe even be a little bit more meaningful. So one thing I wanted to mention following what Mish was saying, Shira Klein is a PJ Library performer, and we have sent out many of her CDs, and accessible for everyone. On Spotify, there are High Holy Day playlists, and a lot of them are children's service songs or something perhaps that you'd want to learn in advance or share with your community in a newsletter, so you can become familiar or play them in whatever you're going to be doing for your community. So whether this is a pre-Rosh Hashanah event that you want to do online for families, or maybe a children's service, all of this can be adapted. I don't know if you've got 7, 17 or 70 children in your community, but drop me a line and we can work out together the best way to deliver content to that many people. And if you're doing different age groups, what's best for the different age groups and what's tried and tested, and I would recommend doing again. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for listening. Take a note of my email address. I'll be happy to send you the programs, the ideas. Let's get in contact with regards to getting books to kids in your community. And thanks very much for listening.
Sarah, that was wonderful. Thank you. I am such an avid supporter of PJ Library. We've been getting the books. Child 3 is now on the books. We've been getting them since the first day you arrived in this country, and they're amazing and we love them. Thank you so much. It's been brilliant to hear all these new ideas, and the idea that the synagogues can use them for outreach as well, for for contacting families who live in the area who are possibly not members is really, I'm sure everyone's eyes lit up at that one. Thank you. That was brilliant. So we're going to do questions. We're going to do questions all at the end. So we're going to move on to RSY as we get through the up the ages. Up the ages.
Hi, I'm Asha. So I'm from RSY NETSA, the Youth Movement for Reform Judaism, and there's actually 5 of us here who are going to speak to you about services for teens. So there's also Josh, Katie, Az and Ellie, who is going to share our...
Am I able to share my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so the reason why we've come to speak about teen services is because as soon as lockdown happened, RSY NETSA did some contingency planning and started a program called Remote Synagogue Youth, where we ran for 14 whole weeks online programming every day between Monday and Friday for all age ranges. And the 5 of us were mainly involved in running prayer in that time, or we did other things, but we were mainly involved in running prayer. So we had Kabbalat Shabbat services every single week. We had a Shacharit on Wednesday mornings run by Josh and Katie, again, every single of these 14 weeks, and then a few kind of themed services in between. So we've been practicing. And the way we're going to do this is that we've picked 5 main techniques, which we think we used over that time, which we think you might want to or you could apply or take inspiration for teen services over the High Holy Days. And I also just really want to echo what Mish said about kind of redefining what you're expecting a service to be like. I think for teens, that's also really important to engage them, not just in Zoom, but it's one of the things that we try and do all the time, is to really challenge that like prayer isn't the same as just like, it doesn't have to be just going through the Siddur prayer by prayer, and that you can think really out of the box, and just challenge the boundaries. I'll also say that as RSY Nets, our services do use a lot of music as well, and we have like lots of leaders who are good song leaders, but as Mish also said, you don't have to be a good song leader to do song leading, and all of our techniques today aren't necessarily, they don't rely on song leading. So yeah, and we'll make sure our PowerPoint is available at the end, because there's a few links in it which you might want to use. So with that said, I'm going to hand over, I think, to Katie.
Yeah, so if we could go to, so yes, I'm Katie, and Josh and I were leading Shachrit every week, and most of the time we would use a PowerPoint which had all of the prayers we were using, and it also had chords, because we really wanted to encourage people who had instruments at home to join in, and I think one time we had someone playing a hairbrush, so any way they wanted to join in, they were able to. So just the basics of sharing your screen. I have some screenshots on the next slide, which we can go to afterwards, which might clarify how to do it. But basically, there's a button at the bottom to share your screen. If you don't have that, it depends on the settings on Zoom, but you might have to make sure that you're the host to be able to share your screen. And then you can choose the window you want to share, and it will only share that window, so you won't be able to see the Zoom controls, but also you have to be aware that if you want to share something else, you might have to stop sharing and then reshare. And then just thinking about the PowerPoint that you want to share. Oh, I missed out. So we tried, because a lot of the time we were sharing our screen, but we also tried to vary that a bit with showing ourselves. So like at the beginning, when we welcomed everyone, it was just us, we didn't have a PowerPoint. And also if you have any moments where, like a moment of silence in the Amidah, for example, you could stop here and then, just to make a bit more of a community atmosphere, and include people. But yeah, when you are using the PowerPoint, you might want to think about the aesthetics of it, so making sure it's engaging for teens. You might not want just like plain with a plain white background. You can include pictures if you want. We had like a theme that we used every time, so because we were having more than one service, we kept the kind of design of it the same, even though we were changing the prayers. And also it's important to think about accessibility, so make sure the font is easy to read and that it's big enough, but also thinking about the positioning of things on your slides. So for example, we were streaming to Facebook, and actually when you do that, there's a little, in the bottom right corner, there's a little logo of Zoom, and just to be aware, like not to put things there if people are watching on Facebook, then that will hide anything you have there. So yeah, and these are just the screenshots of how to do it. So there's, if you want to make someone host, then you go into participants, and there's the share screen button, and there's choosing which window to share and what it looks like.
Straight on to me. Hello everyone, I am Josh. So just wanted to talk about song leading, which is admittedly much harder online, particularly not being able to see people's reactions, not being able to hear people's reactions. You're kind of singing into the void a lot of the time, in a way that also does help with confidence, like if that's an issue for you. But without that visible feedback from your teens, it's important to focus on the melodies you're using, make sure that they're familiar, or if they're not, if you're teaching something new, make sure they're easy to teach in a way that's not kind of relying on call and response or some technique like that. Repetitive is really good. And then also if you do need feedback, the Zoom chat function is quite useful. And then with framing prayers, with our Shacharit services, along the side of our PowerPoint, we have, you can see there, this little scroll bar with the structure of the service laid out. So, for example, if we were in Shema and its blessing, that was bold along the side, as a really kind of helpful way of not making your kind of patter, your kavanah to frame the prayers, kind of helps to structure it so it's not completely daunting. And also just as a way of keeping familiarity as well. If the structure is there, regardless of whether you're singing Wonderwall as part of your concluding prayers or Kaddish and Aleinu and Adon Olam as we normally have in our main shul services, that's really important for getting familiarity. And then more to do with kavanah, with intention, we found that before the silent Amidah was a perfect moment to kind of reflect on social issues as a way of kind of engaging young people, getting them to relate to certain prayers that are sometimes difficult to understand. So for example, during the Black Lives Matter protests, linking those to our own Jewish values, Tikkun Olam of repairing the world, particularly and in Aleinu, where we think about our duty, again, to repair the world.
Hi, I'm Az, and I'll be talking about the chat and whiteboard interaction features. So using your whiteboard is a really good way to safely engage your teenagers in the service, because even when you're in your teens, just listening to someone sing or pray for a really long time can be quite long. So using the whiteboard feature is the same as when you share your screen. There'll be an option to share your whiteboard, and you can download photos so they can draw on photos, or you can draw on like a blank canvas sort of thing. And it's really good for contributing thoughts. A really fun way we used it was to ask people how their week has been, and everyone was like writing down and drawing how it had been, so everyone can see how everyone else is without having to go around the whole Zoom and asking each person how their week was. Multiple people can use it at the same time, so it's also time efficient. And in terms of the chat feature, which is on the next slide, the chat is also really safe because you can turn off the feature where people can talk to each other, so they're only talking to the group or to the host, so that's really good for safeguarding. And also it means that when you're doing the prayers, like what we like to do was to ask people, what can you see outside your window, for example, and during the song everyone would type in what they could see, and then at the end we would give people shout outs, so we like acknowledge that they're there and they know that we know they're there. And the chat transcripts can be saved at the end if you did want to keep them for various reasons. Then on the next slide there's a little picture screenshot of how you can make sure it's all done properly and safely.
Hi, I'm Ellie, and I was just going to talk about how we've used other texts in our services. So the great thing about using other texts is that it really gives structure to the service. It's almost like a narrative over the service, which is like continuous and like continuous themes. And it's really good because you can really adapt it to age groups. You can pick a text that's appropriate for maybe 11-year-olds or 16-year-olds. This text doesn't need to be Jewish. You can use poems. I thought Dr. Seuss, short stories. One that we used was My Name Is Not Refugee, which is like an excellent story if you would like to frame your service with that. And you could even use the parasha or like Jonah and the whale for Yom Kippur, obviously, because there won't be like necessarily like a Torah service section of your prayer service. And the idea would be you would split up the text to make a narrative for the service. And what's really good with this is you can really ask questions during it. Children or like teenagers particularly, they love to share what they're thinking. And prayer can be like an amazing space, like reflective space where they can be given a voice. And it's like really good to give them a voice in like religious settings. And they love to share what they're thinking or stuff about themselves. So a great way to integrate text in other texts into prayer is you can break it up to match the meanings of the prayer you're about to say. Thinking of a question that relates to the story, the prayer, and their life. An idea I had was if you're doing Jonah and the whale, you could say before the Shema, which is the prayer we ask to listen. Jonah decided not to listen to God. Do you think we should always listen to people who are older than us? And it gives them a space to think. And to get them to share that, you can do it in multiple ways. You can either unmute them. It would be lovely to bring their voices into the service. You can also, if they have a piece of paper in front of them, they can draw, they can type into the chat. And you can even leave it as food for thought for them to think about during the prayer. The amazing thing about services is that you don't have to feel like you have to teach the teenagers anything, but if you're able to give them a space where they can think and learn and like discover what they think a prayer means or relate it back to their life, this is like a really wonderful format to give them that space without feeling like you're having to educate. And a lovely way, like other texts are a lovely way to bring Judaism and bring it make it relatable for them in their life through using other mediums. So that's why using other texts is a really valuable method, I think.
Okay, and the last style or like technique that we wanted to share with you, we called it DIY style. And I suppose this is for like, similarly as we were speaking about before, if there's times where you want to do a service but like not on Zoom, or you want to like send out something beforehand to help people interact either in the service or surrounding it or over the High Holy Days in general. We did this a few times for Kabbalat Shabbat, and I will say the one that I'm going to show you was aimed at like slightly younger than teens, but we'll explain how you could maybe adapt it. So what we did is create a resource sheet, but again, this could be a pack with different things in it too. And we actually, do you know what, I'm going to share my, Ellie, do you mind if I share my screen now? I'll show it to you. It's easier to describe if I also show it to you. So this is what we sent out. So they received this, and you can send it online. And so it kind of, again, like Josh was saying, it's really good that they can see the whole service or the whole structure all at once, with the arrows taking you through. We put in a brief explanation of how to use these things, which are QR codes. Maybe you definitely know what they are and maybe you don't, but they're really easy. And you, in our PowerPoint, there's a link to a website which generates them. All you do is copy a URL from anything. It can be from a song on YouTube, from a video on YouTube, from a website, a photograph, anything. It converts it into a QR code. And then this is why we think it's really good for teens, is because teens love their phones, and phones are not always anti-prayer, I think. So what they do is you go on your camera, I'll do it now. So you hold it over the thing and it comes up and it says open in YouTube. So then it takes me straight to the Baruch Hu by Noam Katz. So this is a way to, especially if you don't like or don't want to do song leading with teens, that they can all be listening to the same thing. And we also found it was important on these to also put the intentions of the prayers. And in some places, like here for Hashkivenu, we put like parts of the prayer in, even though it didn't have the whole text, so we can kind of highlight a meaning from the prayer. And some of the QR codes were for activities, like this one was, there was instructions on how to make a paper boat, and we asked everyone to make a paper boat and then send in a picture. And And this is another thing that is useful for teens and interaction. And I suppose it was easy for us because we have a central Instagram account, but some way of asking people to send in their things and then you sharing out again what everyone sent, so people could look on, for us, the Instagram story, and see that all their friends had also gone outside and taken a picture of themselves in nature, or those kind of things. So we also use Canva to design this, and it's very easy to make it look like you're really good at design when you're not. So I think we also recommend Canva, the website. So Ellie, maybe you could just put the PowerPoint back up for one more second. So that kind of DIY style, which you could adapt in any way and send it in activities, are also definitely compatible with being online, being on Zoom. And just the second link under here, so the first of which is the QR code generator, though if you Google QR code generator, you'll just find what I sent. The other is a SoundCloud page, which has many of the tunes for sung prayers that we use in RSY Netzer, which are catchy, engaging, and recorded, lots of them recorded by young people in the movement, so it sounds like a group of teens all singing. And so if you click on that, you can create QR codes from those songs, or just use them in general. So yeah, I think that's all that we wanted to share with you about teen services.
Thank you, RSY Netzer. Gosh, I have completely and utterly loved the one, sticking to time, and two, how everyone has got it's gone so well in terms of going through all of the age groups, which has been brilliant. So thank you. We've got time now for questions. So anyone who wants to ask questions, the first one I got through, if you want to put them in the chat, that might be easy, just if you, rather than saving time with fiddling with unmuting, but if you're a confident unmuter, then do go for it. The first one I've got, Rabbi Monique Meyer has already messaged a question about copyright, which I presume is for Sarah. Monique, do you want to ask it in full so I don't get it wrong? I'll unmute you, there you go.
Yes, thanks, Sarita, and thank you guys. I'm blown away by all the presentations, actually. I know that because PJ Library has produced the books, there's not an issue with presenting the story, because they're giving us permission. But I guess my question was about when you're using texts and quoting. So when RSY they were talking about poems, Dr. Seuss, and short stories and things, and what we need to have in terms of copyright permission for that.
I just say, for PJ Library books, and for most books, it's a bit like music. If it's a live storytelling, whether it's from a book or it's live and you're showing the pictures on screen and you're reading the text behind, it's fine. Your interpretation, and for you to be able to deliver that content live is fine. As soon as it's recorded and played back, it becomes an issue. Then you're making your own version that can be shared. So what I would say is I'm very happy to share books that are PDFs for online storytelling only. Once it's recorded, it's a bit of a problem. So things that are for Zoom Live are great, but anything for Facebook Live that can be seen again, or things that are put on YouTube, that then becomes an issue. But anything live is fine.
Well, and I think we couldn't really go on Facebook and everything anyway, because if the kids show up, I mean, we try not to, but then there's a child protection issue. So,
right.
Yeah, so that was, okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then I was also asking RSY Netzer about that as well.
You're asking RSY about copyright?
Well, yeah, I mean,
I think it's,
I mean, who can, I guess the question is who can answer that? Because so that's been addressed about the PJ Library, but this is a bit different when you're taking quote.
I think what Sarah was saying was also for books that aren't owned by PJ Library. If it's a live reading, if I'm live reading Dr. Seuss, that's fine because it's a live reading. If I'm recording it, that's not okay.
Yeah.
because I know PJ Library also owns some books which are fine for recording, because we already had this conversation. So that's why I understand the distinction. So if you're reading it live and it's not going to be rewatched, it's just as if you're in the room and reading it live, that's fine. There's no copyright issues.
That's correct.
Right, so it's the same thing with any, if you're excerpting.
With anything, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I've got a question from Naomi K. How do you keep teens engaged and not on their other sites while they're on their devices? That's the question for Iris Wynetzer, isn't it?
I think the thing with devices is you can't pretend that they're not going to have them on them. Like, they will be there. And a really good way to frame it, potentially at the beginning of your service, is to say, this is going to be 45 minutes that we're going to sit down together. We've got some things we think you're really going to like. And if we could put our phones away, that would be great. Put them on silent. I think also, if you're continually engaging them throughout by asking them questions and getting them to think, and that is also another way to keep them engaged and not going to their phones. But I think it's about making the service, making them want to engage in the service, and that's through like asking them questions and giving them tasks or like little fun things to do alongside the service. But there's no harm in just asking them at the beginning, this is going to be 45 minutes, we're going to come together as a community, we would really love for you to put your phones away and to put them on silent. And if they do, they do.
Sorry, I've found that also when I'm taking a session, not specifically a service, but a Cheder type session, they're on the screen, they've got another tab open and they're doing something else. And as much as you say to them, well, you know, Fred, what did you think of that? What did I think of what? Because they're really not listening. And I think that's probably just each individual child. Some will, some won't.
I would just add one thing, which is that we can also use conversations about like why we might not have our phones to pray as just like a genuine, transparent way to engage with prayer. And I think that that's something that probably a success of RSY is that we go for that like transparent level, and to say, even if you take up 10 minutes or 15 minutes of your service saying like, how would you feel if you had to go a whole, you know, some people observe Shabbat and don't have their phone, like how would you feel? And then reel it back in and say, oh, but like what if we just did it for this time? I don't know. And just kind of, yeah, I don't know if anyone else from RSY has thoughts on it, but I think that that transparency is also important, especially for older teens.
Don't let it be the elephant in the room. Like, address it at the beginning and hope they respect that. And if they don't, they're in their own homes, so you can't do much else about it, but hopefully they will. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's great. And I think the thing is, like, certainly from my own teams, they're going to have the phones on them anyway, so at least if you're encouraging them to use it for an app that's actually for the prayer, they're much more likely to stick with that, because otherwise they're going to be on Instagram anyway. So thank you, that's great. Now we've got lots of questions about music copyright, which J-license through Transcontinental Music is really the thing for the Jewish community, and it's for all the kind of the modern music that we use that's really comes through from America. That covers a license from them, you report, and that feeds, you know, that pays the composers. So it's really good, like ethically and morally, we should be, all our synagogues should be licensing through J-license, which is on Transcontinental Music. You can Google it, it's quite simple. It's never been such an issue within synagogues, although it is something we've often thought about, but certainly if you come to using it on Zoom, and especially if you live stream to YouTube, you must do it, because you will get caught and you will get like cease and desist kind of threats because of the algorithms that YouTube have set up to capture these things. Facebook are a bit lower, a bit slower, but it will, you know, morally it's the right thing to do. We should be paying for the music that we use. So it's J-license through Transcontinental Music. There was a question about whether that includes recording, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, I believe so. On the front of their website, it allows you to stream and podcast, project, reproduce, make rehearsal and resource recordings for educational and practice purposes, i.e. you're not going to be selling it, and to make adaptations and music arrangements. Also, potentially, if your synagogue doesn't have a J license, it might be that the performer that you're asking to come in does. And that might be appropriate to some of the performers that PJ Library are mentioning, and also, you know, the freelance musicians in the UK.
Thank you, Mish, a fountain of knowledge. We've got some questions around rules about videos being on and off for children. So I think this is probably going to be different for each age group. So RSY first, video on and off, on or off?
I don't think we have any rules for it. Most people, when they come onto the Zoom, want to have their camera on so they can see their friends. Like for us with the remote synagogue youth, it was kind of like bringing everyone together at the end of the week. So most people had them on, but we trust that they're there and listening. So we have no rules about it. But I guess if your particular service, you couldn't, not necessarily trust, but you wanted them to have them on, I'm sure you could make a rule, but we've had no issues so far with not having rules at all.
I think one of the things I noticed that Remote Synagogue Youth did is that in the actual Zoom call themselves, your video is on and you're part of it, but very often they're live streamed to Facebook, and that spotlight view, such as I did for this, so that the only person who's being seen on social media is the person leading the service. And not any children, and I think that's really about the answer there. And we, like RSY, definitely sent out safeguarding information. I'm just speaking on behalf of everybody tonight. I'm sorry, you can shut me up. RSY, do you know the answer to that? Did you read the safeguarding stuff you sent? So safeguarding stuff went out for RSY that included the parental consent for being on video and all of that stuff, and you know, things about parents must be close by or in the same room, you know, because it's very clear. And also all RSY Remote Synagogue Youth things were recorded, not for us just to watch back, but just in case anything happened later on, we had evidence, we could replay it, we can check anything that happened. It was kept for maybe a few weeks or a month and then deleted, which I think is just a really very practical safeguarding thing for anyone who's doing anything with children's services online, just for your own, to cover your own back, to be honest.
Just quickly with the video, if you really do want them to be on, instead of making a rule, you could just say we're part of a community and we would like to see everyone's faces because we are coming together to pray, and we would like to see your faces because we want you to be part of the community with us. So you could do something where you ensured that at least everybody's camera was on at the beginning of the service, so everyone got to see each other and appreciate who they're in a space with. So that's a nice way to frame it without making it seem like a rule or something they have to do, because we really want them to be there on their own choice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so Sandra Fiat is saying that LJY, they have to have a video on to make sure it's really a young person there, and that's really true. Well done, thank you. I think for Tots, Mish, you talked about it, didn't you? You said you need video on.
Yes, but I always would allow parents to turn it off, because if a tantrum's going on, or sometimes a kid's just shy if it's their first time, and usually the parent actually sends a message. We're already checking who's coming in. Usually the parent says, sorry, he's a bit shy today, and we let them do it.
Thank you. Any more questions? I've got a question about, is Instagram site safe? Would it be safe or encouraging in terms of e-safety to email stuff information out?
I think again on that one, it's very much based on our like already existing infrastructure, that like the account for RSY on Instagram is run by the movement workers, so they're like employed and therefore like under those kind of strict safeguarding kind of things. Yes, we can show you how to use the whiteboard also, but in terms of Instagram, you could definitely email it in, like any form of sending it in. I think that also I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts about how we've done it otherwise. I think it's always either been email it or send it to the Instagram.
If you don't want it to be Instagram, an option is to email it in and put it in your newsletter. Have a special kids section in your newsletter where you can say we're going to show all the activities they've been doing in their services, if you don't want to put it on Instagram, if that's
or if it was emailed in and you would then went on a Zoom and you could then like have collated it yourself and then show it back to everyone on the Zoom afterwards, like a more immediate way of feedback rather than Instagram. Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any more questions? I just had a quick look about the whiteboard, which I'll show us in a moment. But just before we do whiteboard for beginners, Debbie.
Hi, I just wanted to ask Sarah a question. Is it possible to have the titles of the books in advance that you will be sending out to the children so that we can plan activities around those books?
Yes, of course. They're the ones featured in the presentation, and there will be the 4 books that have got a program that accompany each of the book. So it's 1, 2, 3 Rosh Hashanah, Hillel at the House, Tashlich at Turtle Rock, and A Rainy Day. So they're the ones that are going out at the beginning of September. They mail on the 1st.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Anyone who wants to email Sarah, she'll send you, make sure you've got all the books information you'll ever need. Very happily, I'm sure. Any more questions? I've really enjoyed this. I feel like I've learned a lot. I hope you all have as well. And Leo made a really good point as well about all streaming, and I think it is very good practice actually, that any time we're doing a Zoom service, like, you know, in this kind of format, anything that's streaming to live stream really should just be the service leader who's being streamed. It also just looks quite messy on the screen if there's lots of people. It's kind of nice for and makes people who are praying feel more comfortable that they're not on show to the masses. I think it's great. How do you put the sidebar showing the structure?
That's for us. Just what we were talking about, having at the side of our PowerPoint the kind of scroll bar of the structure of the service. Yeah, it's really easy. You're right, you just make a text box and then copy it to each slide, and then bit of a faff, but go through and bold whichever section you're in. Really easy.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that is everyone. There was one last question, which is about the last session in this series. Is tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. There were always going to be Mondays and Tuesdays, but then there was an AGM last week, so we switched to the Wednesdays. It's tomorrow. Tomorrow, you've got Candace Greener and the great Rabbi Larry Hoffman joining us for the final session. Is this another question coming through? Can you order songbooks or teen siddurim to have alongside a Zoom or Facebook Live session? I don't know the answer to that.
Wait, was that about like specifically for teens, like siddurim for teens?
Ilana, was that specifically for teens?
Yeah, hi, yeah. So yeah, it was like my two were, they joined in with the RSY and LJY LGBT Shabbat service some weeks ago, and because I'm not very well organized, so I kind of like we joined in, and then like halfway through I realized that there was the service was actually on the Zoom. We could have just plugged in, and occasionally it came up anyway for us, and the youth movement workers, they were like, yeah, we're now on page such and such, and I was like, oh. So luckily I had my siddur to kind of where there were like, you know, familiar parts of the service, so I could, you know, share with my son, so he kind of could follow something. I don't know whether you would.
Yeah, so I would say
something paper or something like alongside a virtual.
Yeah, so I think that like with our services, we try to use the Reform Judaism Siddur because there's an online version. So I think with that service, we sent a link to that Siddur, and also if people were to happen to have it in their house. But we also do use a lot of like music, prayers, and sometimes again readings that are not in that Siddur. And I think I would say we have like a Sharon, so like a songbook for RSY. So I'm sure that if one wanted one, I'm sure if you asked the movement workers, we might see if there were some, but it's hard because we can't really go into the offices right now. We also have a PDF, so we can check on the like possibility of that being shared. I'm again not sure what the rights are with us sharing that, but in terms of like leading stuff, yeah, I would say in those cases we should always try to like put it up on the screen in a PowerPoint.
Fab.
But yeah,
Thank you for that. Yeah, no, I used to have an RSY, Sharon, and I bit of left luggage, left it behind in a synagogue like years ago and never got it back. Sad face. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had some questions about Tots services. Yeah, Mish is right. The Tots services tend to be at a different time. Generally on Rosh Hashanah, it'll be in the afternoon. Yom Kippur as well will be some specific time, maybe during the afternoon break. Sometimes so that parents get the opportunity to go to both. And there was another question. LJ also have all of their Siddurim out online. Just pointing that out. And yeah, there was a question about children's services in terms of different age groups. So Rabbi Richard Jacoby, well done there, has pointed out, I just feel like I need to put some things out there in the chat in case anyone's not looking at the chat, otherwise we all just start reading. And the geography this year doesn't matter, so if you're in a small community with only a few children, you can club together. So RJ are definitely doing joint children's services, like a centralised children's service for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur this year for exactly that reason. I imagine Liberal Judaism will be too. I haven't asked. I think they probably are doing something like that actually. So it's a great opportunity for people to come together. But if you want to do it just with your community, like I think exactly what happened tonight could be done in a modified version, couldn't it? You could do Mish's Tots and then onto a story, and then you can do some of the QR codes with intentions and prayers. I think you could do some really beautiful things there. Is there any more questions? I'm conscious we're coming to the end of our time. Rabbi Sanchfiat says they're running family services, not children's service, in the early afternoon after lunch. I'm planning to send out an activity the kids can do. That's a good idea. Kids' activities while the parents are done. Thank you. Thank you all for joining tonight. You've been a wonderful joining audience, community of learners. That's what I love. Thank you to Sarah and Mish and RSY Netzer, and thank you all for being with us. And many of you will see tomorrow evening, that's tomorrow evening, Tuesday evening, tomorrow at 8 p.m. And all of these sessions will be available on YouTube. RJ YouTube and LJ are showing them in their Facebook group. And Leah, I'll make sure we send all the links out probably on about Wednesday or Thursday when they've all finished. So thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. Bye.
Thanks for hosting, Sarita. We'll see you soon.
Welcome.
Thank you all. Bye, thank you.
Thank you, Sarita.